I will now call to order the Wytheville Town Council meeting Monday, June 24th, 2024 at 5 p.m. at the Municipal Building at 150 East Monroe Street in Wytheville. We do have a quorum. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance by Vice Mayor Kathy Patterson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on the agenda is to approve the agenda. I will need a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? This will be a roll call vote, and we'll start with Councilwoman Johnson.
Johnson, aye. Atkins, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Peterson, aye.
Gilman, aye.
And that passes. Next is just an FYI, at 6 p.m. there could be a scheduled recess if necessary. Next on the agenda is on the consent agenda is the minutes of the regular meeting of June 10th, 2024. I will need a motion to accept as presented or somehow amended.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? Right here, none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Any opposed? That motion passes. Next on the agenda is some presentations by town council. Presentation first will be presentation of a resolution devoted to you, representatives, in appreciation of a Christmas to Remember event. Is there someone here to represent the family? Would y'all want to come on up, please?
Thank you all so much. Resolution, whereas Devoted to You sponsored its third annual A Christmas to Remember event on December the 9th, 2023, and whereas this event requires endless hours of work and dedication by Devoted to You and the many volunteers that make this event successful, and whereas this event supports not only downtown Wytheville, but the entire town of Wytheville with the thousands of people who attend this event. And whereas this event has been likened to a Hallmark movie that highlights the beautiful downtown Wytheville, and whereas the town council desires to express its thanks to Devoted to You and the volunteers who are responsible for making A Christmas to Remember a wonderful and memorable event that brings attention to our town and attracts visitors from near and far. Now therefore be it resolved that the town council of the town of Wytheville, Virginia hereby expresses its appreciation and congratulations to Devoted to You for their efforts in sponsoring this annual Christmas event. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand forth and cause this seal of the town of Wytheville, Virginia, to be affixed this 22nd day of April 2024, signed by Beth Taylor, Mayor, and attested by Sharon G. Corvin, Town Clerk.
Can I get a picture of you all?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for making A Christmas to Remember so special. If you all want to go.
Yeah, you go right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is to consider a resolution recognizing the Wytheville Stateman Vintage Baseball Team. From council, I need a consideration by the town council to adopt a resolution. Need a motion, please.
I so move.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Right here, none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye as well, and that motion passes. Now, we would like to have a presentation of the resolution to the Wytheville Stateman Vintage Baseball Team, and this will be presented by Councilman Gilman.
Whereas in 2017, two Wytheville vintage baseball teams were formed, the Bereans and the Deacons. And these teams were fortunate to have the support and donation from organizations, companies, and individuals that helped purchase uniforms, balls, bats, and bases. And whereas in the winter of 2022, the Wytheville Statesman Vintage Baseball, two words in 1865, team was formed as a traveling team. And this new team united the members of the Bereans and the Deacons, and the team plays by 1865 rules. And wears uniforms and uses equipment from the same time period. And whereas the Wytheville Statesman was the first Virginia team to be sanctioned by the Vintage Baseball Association. And whereas in 2023, the Wytheville Statesman hosted the first ever Blue Ridge Cup Championship game at Wytheville Community College. And the team also, the first ever Virginia team to play at the Gettysburg National 19th Century Baseball Festival in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And whereas the Wytheville Statesman has been requested to help establish vintage baseball teams in areas such as Richmond and Fredericksburg. And whereas when the Wytheville Statesman hosts games, this brings many visitors to the town of Wytheville to enjoy the ways of vintage baseball and to enjoy all of our beautiful town has to offer. Now therefore be it resolved that the town council of the town of Wytheville, Virginia, officially commends the Wytheville Statesman on its successes and appreciates the recognition the team brings to Wytheville. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the town of Wytheville, Virginia, to be affixed this 24th day of June. Beth A. Taylor, Mayor, attested by Sharon G. Porter, Town Clerk.
On this one.
Closer. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Congratulations. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, proceeding. Next on the agenda is a public hearing to consider the donation of a small parcel of town-owned property located at the intersection of Main Street and 12th Street to the Virginia Department of Transportation, i.e. VDOT. Town manager will introduce that for us.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. As you all will remember, over the last year or so, the council has heard a variety of projects proposed by the Virginia Department of Transportation relative to safety measures. One of those was the realignment of Monroe Street to realign the two sections of Monroe, as you can see up here on the top left of the screen and on the sheets before you, where there is a misalignment there. Before VDOT endeavors into a project like this, they go through what's called a right-of-way phase, and during their research, they identified the sliver of land shown here in the red, in this red triangular wedge shape here, that really didn't have a clear chain of title. It's suggested or believed that it's probably the town's, but because we're not clear on it, the best method for us to dispose of it is basically through a quick claim. To say if we do have any interest in this piece, we are giving it to VDOT such that they can move forward with the Monroe Street realignment project. So it's pretty straightforward, but it does require a resolution by the council.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Freeman before we open up?
Excuse me, an ordinance.
All right, I will now open up the public hearing. to receive comments regarding the donation of a small parcel of town-owned property located at the intersection of Main Street and 12th Street to VDOT. I do not have anybody registered to talk during this public hearing. Is there anybody out there that forgot to sign in? All right, so hearing none, we will close this public hearing. Next on the agenda is a consideration by Town Council to adopt ordinance number 1438, an ordinance discontinuing and vacating a small parcel of town-owned property located at the intersection of Main Street and 12th Street to be donated to the Virginia Department of Transportation on first and final reading. I need a motion, please. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Right here, none. This will be a roll call vote. Mr. Gilman?
Gilman, aye.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Johnson, aye.
All right. The ayes have it unanimously, and that has now been over. Next on the agenda is a public hearing to consider appropriations to the fiscal year 2023-24 departmental budgets due to the unexpected expenditures during the fiscal year. The end staff report by Mr. Freeman.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Before you is you should have a brief report in your packet provided by Town Treasurer Mike Stevens. As you all know, state law requires that anytime appropriations exceed 1% of the approved budget, we have to adjust these by way of a budget amendment. And you have enumerated before you an adjustment of $20,000 for the Perpetual Care Fund. Perpetual Care Fund is the fund we use to make capital improvements to our cemeteries. This was for fencing at Oakwood Cemetery. The Wall of Honor Fund needed to be adjusted to $1,000 because there was no money budgeted there, but we did have some engraving costs this year. The Homestead Endowment Fund was adjusted $25,000 for a lighting project that was approved by the council, but it needed to be moved over to the Homestead Advisory Board's fund, and it was at their request. The Wytheville EDA Fund, this is simply was reimbursements for the council-approved Build It 2025 program, and then $12,000 transferred from the general fund to create a JAM fund. This $12,000 was appropriated by council in last year's budget, but we moved it from the general fund to the JAM fund, and that way it would allow that fund to have liabilities, would have revenues and expenditures, and be able to carry a balance from 1 year to the next, because they do receive funds from Wythe County and other entities, and they want to be able to carry balances forward, and this was the cleanest way to do that. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those. The good news is that there were we're not faced with any adjustments as far as the 1% goes to the general fund, water fund, or sewer fund.
These are the yearly adjustments that take place. Usually,
Yes,
Mr. Stevens comes in and reads.
Yes, ma'am. He just happens to be out of town today, so I'm covering him.
Any other questions for Mr. Freeman?
I do want to double check. You did say the use of reserves for perpetual care is fencing. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
There was some steel or aluminum decorative fencing put on the backside of Oakwood Cemetery.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. No more questions. I will now open up this public hearing. And once again, I do not have anybody signed in to speak at this public hearing. If there's anybody out there that wants to speak to this public hearing. All right, I will close this public hearing. Next is consideration by the Town Council to approve making appropriations to the fiscal year 2023-24 departmental budgets in the following amounts: Wall of Honor Fund budget in the amount of $1,000, Perpetual Care Fund budget in the amount of $20,000, the Wytheville Economic Development Authority (WEDA) fund budget in the amount of $25,000, the Homestead Endowment Fund budget in the amount of $25,000, and the JAM program fund budget in the amount of $12,000, and to authorize the town treasurer to make departmental transfers. I need a motion.
Make a motion for the Wytheville Town Council to approve the appropriations for the fiscal year 2023-24 for the departmental budget.
Great. Thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any
Second.
discussion?
Mayor Taylor, I just want for people that's here and probably on the video that it is fund, not fund, because I don't want people calling us and questioning and say, if it's fund. So I just want it is fund.
I apologize if
No,
I
no,
said
no.
something wrong.
It's clear here, but I just wanted people out and there to. But yes, ma'am. No other comments. Thank you.
All right, so I have a motion and I have a second. Any other questions?
No, ma'am.
This requires a roll call vote. Councilwoman Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Patterson, aye.
Gilman, aye.
Ayes have it. Next on the agenda is to consider ordinance number 1436, an ordinance repealing Chapter 7, Licenses and Businesses Regulations, Article 3, Taxi Cabs of the Code of the Town of Wytheville, Virginia, on first and final reading. Have a little presentation, please.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. I think Assistant Manager Holton explained this pretty well in the last meeting and provided you all with a report in your packet for tonight. But for those in the audience who may not have heard it, in essence, the town has for 50 plus years regulated taxi cabs through some enabling legislation through the Code of Virginia, which does not require that localities regulate taxi cabs, only provides that they may. It turns out that the way in which the town was regulating taxi cabs was completely duplicitous, and it was basically duplicating what the state code was already providing. So there's just quite a bit of redundancy there. The types of things they were requiring were reporting of licenses of drivers and things like that. And there just really was no benefit to the citizens of the town of Wytheville for the town to repeat that. What is already covered through the DMV, essentially. So it is the staff recommendation that you repeal this ordinance moving forward.
Does anybody have any questions, Mr. Freeman?
No, sir.
All right, so council will consideration by town council to adopt ordinance number 1436, an ordinance repealing Chapter 7, Licenses and Businesses Regulations, Article 3, Taxi Cabs of the Code of the Town of Wytheville, Virginia, on first and final reading. This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Gilman. I'm sorry. I need a motion.
I so move.
A motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any further discussion? Right here, none. All in favor? We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Gilman.
Gilman, aye.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Johnson, aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Next on the agenda is consider the appointment of a member of the Wytheville Tree Advisory Committee to fill the expired term of Mr. David Reichert, whose term expires May 14, 2024. Need consideration by town council. I think we have two candidates.
We just want for this.
Just one. I need a recommendation.
I would like to make a motion to recommend Deanne Bronson Irving to replace Mr. David Reichert.
All right, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Right here, none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As well. Any opposed?
I am Mayor Taylor because I was not here, so I just don't feel comfortable voting.
So you're abstaining?
Please, yes, because I was not here for the work session. Is that okay, Ms. Corbin? Is that okay?
Yes.
Thank you. I just feel more comfortable. Thank you.
All right, so that motion carries. Congratulations, Ms. Irvin. Next on the agenda is to consider scheduling a work session to hold meet and greet sessions appropriating a member of the Wytheville Tree Advisory Committee to fill the expired term of Mr. Morris. Term expires May 14, 2024. And we have 2 candidates for that, right? So I think would council like to set up a meet and greet session for those? I need a motion, please.
So move.
So I have a motion to set up a work session, and that can be on July 8, 2024 at 4 p.m. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? Right here, none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. So we'll proceed with that work session, our next July 8th at 4 p.m. Next on the agenda is to consider scheduling a public hearing for the July 22, 2024 Town Council meeting to consider a general obligation bond in the amount of $800,000 for capital improvements to the town's wastewater facilities.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. This is a project that's come before you several times over the last year. And as you all know, over the last 12 to 18 months, the town staff has been working on the design and financing of a sewer infiltration and inflow corrective project. We often refer to that as I&I or I&I. On March 6, 2024, the Town Council held a special council meeting and a public hearing to consider approving a resolution authorizing the execution of a general obligation bond through Virginia Resources Authority, or VRA. That bond was in the amount of $491,784, which is 25% of the nearly $2 million project. The bond was for 30 years at 0% interest, and that represented the principal repayment portion of the bond, of the project. The remainder of the project cost, or about $1.5 million, was to be in the form of a principal forgiveness loan. This was essentially, or it was a 75-25 grant from the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality. The loan amount was based on the design work and estimate provided by the consulting engineers. On April 25th, 2024, the bids were opened and the project came in at $3,198,394, or about $1.2 million higher than the engineer's estimate and the initial approved loans. In response, VRA issued a new commitment letter increasing the principal forgiveness portion to $2,398,394 and the principal repayment portion to $800,000. This remains at the 75-25 ratio just as before, and you should have in your packets a new commitment letter as well. Since these are new amounts, the town will have to set another public hearing and repeat the process to finalize the financing, and that can be scheduled for July 22nd, 2024 during our regular council meeting. You all may remember the last time, because of the nature of the code requiring specific advertising dates and so many days before the or after the advertising, but not before this, that, and the other. We had to do it on a Wednesday, but the Code of Virginia, fortunately, I think is changing on July 1 to get rid of that, or change since we did that last, and we can now do this at a regular meeting. I'll answer any questions you have relative to that, but tonight you're just being asked to set a public hearing.
Any questions, concerns? All right. There are none. Need a consideration by Town Council to schedule a public hearing for July 22nd, 2024 Town Council meeting to consider a bond in the amount of $800,000 for capital improvements to the town's wastewater facilities. I need a motion.
Also move.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any further discussion? I hear none. Roll call vote. Start with Councilwoman Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Patterson, aye.
Gilman, aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Thank you. Next is to consider the issuance of hunting permits on town-owned land and on Sand Mountain. Mr. Freeman, you have anything to say?
Before I do, I want to correct myself. Earlier, I said that the state code and the town's ordinance relative to taxi cabs was duplicitous, and I should have said duplicative. So I just wanted to correct myself there. that bothered me as I was sitting there. This is a yearly thing on Sand Mountain on the properties owned by the town. There's about an 1,800 acre watershed up there that about half has been deemed appropriate for hunting, and the town for several years now has allowed up to 50 hunters to obtain permits to hunt on this property. This is deer hunting, and this a few years ago, the Department of Game and Inland Fisheries took over the policing of this, so they regulate it just the same as they do any other state or federal lands that allow hunting. So the fortunate thing for us is that this follows all of the state's hunting guidelines, but it is required of the council to, before we announce it or open up the application process, we are asking for the council's blessing to do so.
Any questions for Mr. Freeman?
I do, Mr. Freeman. Are there usually 50 people that actually apply, or is it like a low number? I know it used to be sort of over the top. But
Do you mind if I ask Sherry the answer there? Because I think they receive those applications, and I think it varies from time to
That's
time.
correct.
I think it has
varies
been
from
low,
year.
but I think we have had 50 before.
Yeah, we have had over 50.
Certainly not every
I remember we used to have, I think, years ago. But and how is that advertised? Is it advertised to the public on the town's webpage and the newspaper, or is it just like a yearly thing? If it's not, can it be?
I think it could be however you all want us to do it, basically. I think probably at least through social media and
Social
the
media,
website so
right.
far, but if you all want us to do it a different way, we can do it.
We did advertise it last year.
Yes, ma'am.
That
It's in
was
the
my question.
newspaper and social media, website, and everything.
Can we just make sure that is done again? If
Yes, we've already prepared.
Is that okay with the rest of council?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. All right, I need a consideration by town council to approve the issuance of hunting permits, please. Need a motion?
So moved.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion second, any further discussion? Right here, none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye as well, any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Next on the agenda is a presentation to town council regarding a feasibility study for Virginia Breeze Bus Service Transit to stop at Elizabeth Brown Memorial Park. And I believe the first person who wants to is Mr. Saunders. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for being here this evening.
Oh, it's Mayor Taylor and the council. Good evening. My name is Alan Saunders. I'm the engineering director for the Department of Rail and Public Transportation. And with me tonight is Avery Daughtry. He is the Virginia Breeze program manager, and Sam Green, who is a transit planner consultant. We also have special guest Melanie Fleener back there, who's also been a great proponent of
Welcome
transit
to everybody.
for us. So we need to move the Virginia Breeze stop in Wytheville. This is a critical stop. Avery is going to provide a little bit more information about the Virginia Breeze. We've got a stop here that is in a current location that may need to be moved soon. So what we've done is we've conducted a feasibility study. We evaluated several locations across the community, and we have a recommendation for one. So Sam's going to provide an overview of the feasibility study and its recommendations, and then we are going to seek your consent to move forward with this location. The good news is that we're not asking you for any money. We are using funds provided by the Department of Rail and Public Transportation for these improvements. So I'm just going to handle the clicker and pass on to Avery.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. The Virginia Breeze is a state-sponsored intercity bus service that connects underserved rural communities to larger urban areas, which reduces the single vehicle occupancy on our roadways. More significantly, it's a vital option for some passengers that just otherwise don't have the ability to travel outside of their communities. The Highlands Rhythm Route, which is the route that serves the Wytheville community, was launched in late 2021 and has both a northbound and southbound trip, and we operate 365 days a year. Currently, we're stationed at the Rural King location. So we launched a feasibility study to evaluate improvements necessary to establish a bus stop and to improve ridership, enhance visibility, and improve connectivity. So within the past 12 months, just wanted to give you a primer here. We had 354 trips made to or from the Wytheville area with 178 departures and 176 arrivals. The total ridership for this route for this time period was just shy of 58,000. The existing bus stop in Wytheville is located, as I said, in the rural core, but as soon as I understand it, going to be redeveloped and the parcel subdivided. So that puts a little bit of pressure for us to find an opportunity here to hopefully enhance this for community members in Wytheville to get where they need to go. So approximately, just wanted to mention this, 6% of the Highlands Rhythm route of the Virginia Breeze is comprised of passengers traveling to and from Wytheville. So it is a significant part of our route, and we want to make sure to extend that option moving forward and continue to be able to serve this wonderful community. I'm going to now turn it over to Mr. Sam Green.
Great. Thank you for having us this evening. What you're looking at on the screen here is a rendering of what the proposed stop will be looking like. So we have the repaving of the Civic Center parking lot, and then you're also seeing on Spring Street right here an image of the bus stop with the platform, total build out of the options. So as part of the feasibility study, we casted a wide net looking at over 11 different locations in the town of Wytheville limits. Also including the existing stop location and a few different locations around that. We looked at connectivity to I-81. We looked at safe bus movements. We looked at visible, safe locations in the town. We also looked at site readiness because, as Avery and Alan both mentioned, this needs to happen with the redevelopment going on. We worked with John, and he let us know. He kept us informed throughout the entire process of current events in the town. And so we ultimately got to the location of what we're calling the Elizabeth Brown Park site. And this is a great location because it is central to the town of Wytheville. It does look at, when considering the overall location, it doesn't affect bus operations too much because of the street network in the town. It will be easy to travel to and from I-81 and get back on, as Avery was mentioning earlier, to Bristol and all the way into Washington, D.C. What's really great about this stop, too, is currently only one Mountain Links transit line is serving the existing location, but we're looking, and we put in our space program accommodations that this could be serving not only the Virginia Breeze bus line, but also the Mountain Links bus line as well. So future-proofing enough space in the program to accommodate both bus services. And then also talking about being site ready, the site also considering with the town too, with the resurfacing and the parking lot being ready for construction and design. So go to the next slide. So walk you through, these are a couple graphic concepts that we put together. You're looking at on Spring Street, a picture of the proposed bus stop and its base improvement levels. This has the resurfacing of the parking lot, so you'll see new cars, or you'll see cars lined up to the back of that. What you're seeing here is what we could do very soon is put a new sign down and also look at restriping the lot or the drive, and so we'll keep on going. The next phase would be the intermediate phase of improvements. We're looking at a couple passenger amenities. You're looking at some basic landscaping. You're looking at connections to the parking lot for pickup and drop-off purposes. And then finally, with our full build-out, you're looking at having a bus shelter and full landscaped amenities. We actually looked at a couple examples within the town of what landscaping could look like at this location. But there would also be a branding component to this. So we recognize that this could be a structure on the side of the roadway, but we also want to make sure that it's, iconic to the town, whatever you all want it to look like, knowing that this will be in the central visible location for the town of Wytheville. So we go to the next slide. We do want to recognize that we're looking at this from a phased approach, but we are ready to design this and construct this with a full build out. We have a preference to do this all at once to get in and get out with design and construction. So this is the overall space program. A lot of details here, but goes to show all the different amenities, all the different thinking about the passenger experience, thinking about the vehicle experience, thinking about the bus boarding, the waiting experience for all of passengers and users of this space. So with that, I will turn it back over to Alan to talk about the next steps of the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with your approval to pick this location, we could deliver this in a lot of different ways. We have it fully funded, and our preference is to build it out and provide a stop for the Virginia Breeze riders and the Mountain Lake riders to get them out of the mud and get them out of the sun. We can take a phased approach to this. We have to make some improvements at the site just to have a bus there. We have to have a boarding and a lighting area that meets ADA requirements. But we could take a minimalist approach, have a boarding and a lighting area, a boarding platform, and a sign. We could build it out with some amenities, or we can have a full canopy and a stop to get the riders, give them somewhere, some shelter that's out of the rain, and also be a feature for this community in this area. So the next stops for us, we would design this, we would put this back before the council, we would provide several different visual solutions, and we get some feedback from you as the stakeholders for this stop as to what it would need to look like and how it could highlight the community. We would design that ourselves. We would provide 100% construction plans to the town to review, and then I would engage a contractor to build it, turnkey. And then we would take over the stop and begin using it. And there is a sense of urgency for us, and it could be phased from, again, putting a sign behind the sidewalk with some improvements to provide ADA compliant boarding area to a full build out with a shelter. But we do need your approval of the location before we move forward. We want to make sure that the town is on board with this location for the stop.
I'm
Yes,
sorry.
ma'am. Any questions?
I was starting to fly, but I do have a question. So Nat over here. I'm
you just want
sorry.
to go first.
I was looking at your design that I'll back up here to
After that,
your
the rendering.
all of the previous improvements, the bus shelter, extended boarding platform, placemaking, and the branded signage. So you have the 2 seats there. Would you be able to put the seating under that little shelter thing? Would there be benches underneath that in case it's raining or on hot days like it has been, instead of them not being out in the open?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's a blank slate. There are a lot of different solutions, from a prefabricated shelter to a custom solution like this. And we would get some feedback from you and base the design on what the community needs. It could include a bench under, it can include one out, one in. This rendering was really based on a phased approach to where we come in and plant a signpost first and then put a bench in, have a trash receptacle to collect trash, and then build the canopy itself.
Okay.
We could build it all at once. It can have a bench in it. It's really just a blank slate.
Okay.
The only thing that we're really limited to is the funding that we have for this. So we have enough funding allocated to this project for a feature to make something that really complements the community in Elizabeth Brown Park.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Do you use local contractors?
We would use a local contractor. The Department of General Services has a job order contract that has regional contractors around the state. And we would use the job order contract through the Department of General Services to perform this work. And they use local contractors. It's split up by region. So they would extend an invitation to several different contractors in the community that are part of the Gordian contract, the job order contract, and see which of them would be willing to perform the work.
What's the time frame? Once you lock down the location, what's your time frame to getting it full build out?
10 months. We would perform the design first. The design would take anywhere from 10 to 16 weeks. And then we would submit that back to the town for approval. And once it was approved, we would do the incidental concrete work first through the contractor. And if the canopy is part of the final project, the foundations for the canopy, that would need to sit and cure and gain strength. And then we would come back and install the amenities on top and the canopy itself, LED lighting and those things. So altogether, it's probably 10 months.
Okay.
You had mentioned that obviously the parking lot needs a little bit of TLC. Is that on the town to do that, or is that part of your program that the parking lot that it's in, renovated?
The connectivity back to the parking lot would be part of the project. Any ADA compliant required improvements at the parking lot, we would include in the scope of work, but not repaving and restriping the entire parking lot.
Just wanted to make that
Anything
clear.
specific to the project.
Yep.
I do have a couple questions. Would that consider, I'd like to see consider of a crosswalk sign there on 4th Street and Spring Street to get there in case there's people coming. And would this be just a parking lot that the two companies that you mentioned, would that be just their parking lot, or would it still be a public parking lot for the town?
It would be a public parking lot for the town.
Okay. Because I know we have a department, I think, that uses the bottom section there, if I'm not mistaken, a lot for some of their equipment. I just want to make sure that that's still kept for the department. And would that consider that area, that bottom area, how much are we talking about you all actually doing, just that one section or the section down behind the 4th Streets?
Just the one section.
Just the one section, okay. A few more questions, sorry. Is this a drop-off point? Can people leave their cars parked there? Or is it like, I mean, if someone wants to drop off and then come back a week later or something like that, is that a drop-off point? They can leave their car there? Is that what we're looking at?
We would hope that the riders would find a transit solution through Mountain Links or get dropped off at the location. Okay. The bus would come through a little later in the evening.
Okay.
If it's permissible for them to leave a car there,
okay,
for that extended period of time, but we typically don't see that as riders.
Okay.
They would get dropped off and then wait. They would have a location here, a nice, safe, well-lit location to wait for the bus, and then they would get dropped off and collected.
Okay, well, and that was going to be just my next question. I didn't know if there were going to be vehicles there, if it would, if you all would provide any type of security, like camera-wise or anything like that. I didn't know if that was an option you all can look at.
It is something that we can look at.
Thank you. Thank you,
There's
sir.
connectivity there. There's certainly that security feature. Is something.
All right. Thank you very much. That's all.
I have one more question.
I'll note that down.
So you would pick up and drop off on that one side?
Yes, ma'am.
So
right.
If the bus is going towards Lee Highway, then it would have to swing in to the left and pull up, and which means it would have to cross the double line to pull in to drop off. Do I have it right?
The bus would loop around so that the entrance and exit would align with the boarding and lighting area. They couldn't cross over and then drop off. They would have to navigate
loop around and then come back down facing, back down to the east. They would drop off. They would pick up and drop off facing the east both times. Okay. I just want to make sure that I understood that right. Okay.
For this vehicle, the motor coaches have one ADA compliant entry and exit, and that has to align to the boarding and lighting area. Get up against it so that they can drop down and the ramp can extend out so that anyone with mobility needs can get on and off the bus, and they have to get there from the boarding and lighting area.
Okay. So it would either loop around, come down 4th Street and come in parallel to the east, or it could come down Main Street and turn and parallel to the east. Okay.
One more question. Of course, this may be directed to Mr. Freeman. Since we may be looking at doing probably maybe 3/4 of this parking lot, and I know the council's talked about it before in the past about we probably need to do the whole parking lot. Mm-hmm. I'd like maybe council to consider, instead of having like a little bit of old section and a whole lot of new section, if the council would consider doing that small section that they've not talked about doing, if maybe we could look at some type of budget or something.
Yeah, I mean, you're correct in saying this is a project the council's considered for probably 3 or 4 years at least.
Yes, sir.
And maybe it's a question for you, because I think what you're asking is, would you all be doing any of the paving and restriping? And I think the answer is no.
The only restriping that we would do and the pavement marking would be relative to the stop.
So it'd just be in Spring Street. Right. So we would be doing all of them.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Good presentation. Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions?
Sorry, I'm the one that asks questions usually.
We'll take them.
Well, we really appreciated this presentation. I think we all, I can't speak for anybody, but I'm excited about it.
I am too.
Mayor Taylor, thank you.
So, thank you. We'll go ahead and So the next thing on the agenda is consideration by town council to approve a resolution to support for Virginia Breeze Bus Services transit stop at Elizabeth Brown Memorial Park. I will need a motion.
So moves.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Mayor Taylor, I would like to get council's input on going ahead and just doing a full build out. Is that what we're talking? Because weren't we going to have like a couple sections?
I think that was up to them as how they
Oh,
do
it's
it,
up to
right?
you all.
That is up to you.
He said it was up to us.
That's what I was thinking. So, I mean, I would like to consider the full build out if at all possible.
Yes. With the benches underneath that.
Absolutely. And we will certainly come back to you and present the renderings and make sure that you accept the solution before we design it and build it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so is that the time we probably ought to put that in as opposed to now?
Do you need to know if we want like small, medium, or large? No. I mean, I don't mean to be ugly, but you gave us three different. Sorry.
We're going
Ask a fat
to
girl question, and she's going to ask that way.
We have some preliminary work that
Okay.
we need to ensure that we've met all the state and federal
Okay.
environmental requirements. Do a survey, identify the utility locations. We have some homework to do before we get started.
Okay.
We'll develop some design solutions and put them before you and see what you think.
Right.
Okay.
And based on those preferences, we'll design 100% plans, submit those to the town for approval, and then we'll build it.
Okay.
So we've got time for that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And no pun intended with me laughing. Sometimes we need to loosen up. We don't always have to be so tied up in it.
Thank you, Ms. Atkins. That was a great question.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, is there any other questions or concerns for council? All right, this will be a roll call vote. Councilman Gilman,
Gilman, aye.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Johnson, I.
All right, that motion passes. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much.
Thank you all.
Looking forward.
Thank you.
Very excited.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to proceed with the agenda, and the next on the agenda is a citizens period, and I believe we have one person to start off with. Mr. David Johnson, please come to the podium. Get your name and your address for the minutes, and
Yeah, Mayor
Have
Taylor, it's David
few
Johnston, address 650 South 10th Street. A question actually for Mr. Castle there. If, say, Wytheville should go to court, the town of Wytheville should go to court, do you represent them or who represents them?
Sir, that's something that varies a lot depending on the subject matter.
Federal case.
So I'd be happy to talk with you about that after the meeting, because there's a lot that goes into whether I represent or someone else represents them.
While I'm standing here, I'd like to make a suggestion to the board, Mr. Freeman, step down and resign.
said that, okay.
If Mr. Freeman stepped down and resigned,
Oh.
this is once again on the right of way up there. It's been turned over to the Federal Bureau of Land Management, which Mr. Castle's familiar with. Been turned over to the Department of Defense because we got bald eagles up there. And it's been turned over to the United States Supreme Court in D.C. Just here at the end of last month, we had a major drug bust up there. They're using that right of way to traffic drugs in and out. I've been on Mr. Freeman for like the last 6 years. Hadn't nothing been resolved about it. Mayor Taylor, we talked about this one other time, me and you did in a conference over here. And you told me the best thing I could do was sue the town of Wytheville.
Wow.
Are you denying that?
I agree. I think I told you that. I mean,
I don't recall telling you that, sir. I'm not sure I would ever say something like that.
Yeah, 'cause we had a meeting across the hall over here because I asked you where everybody's at and you said you're going to tape record it. And 2 weeks later, you finally called me back and says, I've talked to everybody and said, just go ahead and sue us. But that is a federal fence line. It's not a property line, which Mr. Castle will probably tell you. It's 4 squares, 5 rows high, and 3 strands of barbed wire across the top of it. Which makes it a federal borderline or a boundary line. Same thing on the side of the interstate of Virginia. You tear a piece of section down, you're going to go to federal court over it. And DC's already told me it's at least 5 years jail time over, at least $5,000 per section. Now, Mr. Freeman came and said, well, we've sent supervisors out there. We had it surveyed. No, the last time it was surveyed was hurting profit. Mr. Gary Hale owned it. And the building inspector, Tim Foss, Spraker made Mr. Hale survey it. So what's the town going to do about it?
What's our time?
Well, he's got about 1 more minute.
So what do you suggest we do about it?
Think we have any suggestions at this moment, sir?
I've already suggested either we can take this the civil way, have the guy that tore down the fence line put it back up, or we can all go to federal court.
We appreciate you coming and talking to council, and your time is up again.
Well,
Appreciate you coming in.
No, 1st of July is next month. That's when all the federal and state laws turn over. And Mr. Castle, does it sound like I'm threatening anybody?
Your time is up, sir. Thank you for coming in.
So, my neighbor.
Okay, go ahead and have a seat. Your time is up. Thank you. There's nobody else here to come before council this evening. So we will proceed. New business, Town Manager Freeman.
Nothing at this time, Mayor Taylor.
All right. Reports, Town Clerk Corbin.
Yes, I have just a couple of things. As a reminder, the Wytheville Treasurer's Office is closed to the public Monday, June the 24th through Friday, June the 28th for the Treasurer's Office employees to attend the Treasurers Association of Virginia Conference and for a software change. The next is the Joint Industrial Development Authority of Wythe County will meet on Thursday, June 27th at 3 p.m. here in the council chambers. The Town of Wytheville Municipal Office will be closed and all services curtailed on Thursday, July 4th and Friday, July 5th due to the Independence Day holiday. And the next regular scheduled meeting of the Wytheville Town Council will be held on Monday, July 8th at 5 p.m. here in the council chambers.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda would be council member time. Start with you, Mr. Gilman.
I don't have anything at this time.
All right, thank you.
Nothing at this time.
I myself has nothing.
I did have a question. I had made a call and just wanted to have it on record to check the crosswalk light down here on Tazewell and crossing over. I did speak to Miss Jones about that. She was going to look into it and everything. I think there was one there, but it has been supposedly taken away since, and it may be fixed by now. And also, I'd like to get an update on the veterans banners, please.
So the application window opened last week on Wednesday or Thursday. Anyone interested in that program will have to make application. We've got it posted on our website and through social media. We're getting several shares. I don't know that we've received any applications yet, but please help us spread the word.
Okay.
So the applications are open.
And just want to just double check on, is everything still in motion of how we voted as a council, or is there been a hold? From my understanding, I think there were 2 different companies going to.
We're proceeding as the project was presented to the council.
Okay,
yes,
that's
ma'am.
just what I wanted to make sure, because I've heard some complaints, but I want to hear it from you. So, okay. Other than that, I think I'm good.
Thank you.
All right, anything else?
All right. Let's talk splash pad. I received your email, and I would like to see that opened up to all the citizens, so to speak. Let's see if we have some creative individuals in our neighborhood that could possibly come up with a design of something that they would like to see. I know that we have a perfect spot. I think that may be coming available soon. I'm not sure, Mr. Freeman. I know we did vote into the budget to remove the bleachers. I think that would be the perfect spot for that. I know you've been working on it from what your email said. So I'd like to open it up for our citizens. If they would like to do drawings, let them be creative. It's their town. Let them be creative with what they want it to look like. But I know splash pad had been brought up a couple of years ago, and then when I brought it up last week, I received an email from you. So I would like to open it up to all the citizens. This is something that I would like to see happen. I actually was out of town this weekend, and it was so hot outside.
You went
and
to
I
a splash
enjoyed.
pad.
Yes, I was present at a splash pad.
Good to you.
So, and I enjoyed watching the children play on that splash pad, and it was in a public park, and there was no cost involved. So the children, they had a wonderful time. I enjoyed watching them. So I would like to, I know you said that you were working on some things, but I would like to open it up and have a contest, maybe let some people design it.
I personally am not working on anything. I just had that information beforehand for a group of mothers that had the same idea as you have, and other people have since then, and they've talked to the rec center, several other people on and off. So I think it's probably a town-wide concern, not a concern, a want.
Right.
And I think there's going to be a lot of push behind it to make that happen. Now, as far as where and what the best site for it is, even in that park, if you try to keep it with the where the pipes already are, or can you do this or can you do that? So I think we'd probably just need other people besides us to get that information so that the citizens will know exactly where it can be put or where it can be put before stuff like that.
Understood. But I would like to, if we could open it up, maybe advertise for some of our youngsters in the town to maybe do some drawings of what they think that one should look like. I think that would be wonderful. Or parents, and send them in and let us review them as a council and see what we can come.
I guess my question is do we need to get some information to let them know the possibilities of where that can be put before we ask them to draw? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
I think if you looked at it as a less so on a technical side, but maybe an inspiration, I think if that makes sense, maybe we could derive some inspiration for a future design or something like that. That might be an approach rather than getting, down into the details of it. But kids just providing you with some artistic representations of what a splash pad could just convey to you ideas like fun. If that makes sense. I'm not trying to get too soft or nebulous about it, but maybe that would be better than the technical of where to and how to.
Right.
Yeah.
And instead of it being something that we do, it can be something that the citizens do and something that they can be proud of.
absolutely.
I'm not here to steal anybody's show.
Well, I don't think anybody has a show.
Bringing it to the attention, I think that would be something nice for the citizens to do.
If I'm not mistaken, years ago, there was just a square that was given to, I think, children in the community that they could design the town sticker. I think that was a program, so maybe they could either do a rectangle or a square, but I know they had contests of who would do it, and then that would be used for the town sticker years ago when we had those. So great idea.
Thank you. All right. Anything else from council?
No, ma'am.
All right, so now we find it necessary to go into a closed meeting pursuant to 2.2-3711A1, discussion regarding performance appraisals and salaries for appointed employees, and a discussion regarding a pending vacancy of an appointed position. Before we go through the motion and the vote, we're also going to close session meeting to pursuant to 2.23711A19, discussion regarding plans related to the security of the Wytheville Municipal Building located at 150 East Monroe Street. For these, I will need a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye as well. All right, we are now in closed session. Thank you all for coming.
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Why would I be hungry?
It is now necessary to reconvene into open session by stating that the town council is now in open session. A motion is necessary to certify that only matters lawfully convening the open session were discussed. I need a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Mayor Taylor, I would like to address something after we make this. I'd like to make one more comment before we close, but not over this, please.
No other discussion? This would be a roll call vote.
Johnson, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Addison, aye.
Gilman, aye.
All right, we are now in open session.
Anybody else want to say anything? I want to see if there was something that could be on got it. I would like to have something put on the next agenda because I may forget to send an email. So I figured that's out myself that I'd like to talk about the HR position. If you can put that on the next agenda, please.
You're talking about the open agenda or a closed?
Whatever it takes to get on the agenda. I mean, whatever council feels best to talk about.
I do think we had agreed to do another closed session in our next meeting.
But not on that. But not on that. We didn't discuss that.
No, but we're just having dialogue here so that Sherry would know.
Can we do it open? Mayor Taylor, can we do an open?
For personnel?
A work session.
Oh,
Y'all told me to figure it out, so I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah.
If it's about the HR position in general, then that would be open session discussion.
Okay.
If it's about performance of an employee relating to HR, that could be and would be advisable to be in executive session.
Okay. So I think a work session would be sort of fine.
Well, it'd just be placed on the agenda. You mean on the agenda?
Or right, but
Right.
yes. I didn't know if we could, right, that's fine.
okay.
That's fine.
So what do we decide, agenda or?
I think it's on the main agenda.
Yeah.
All right.
And
It's just going to be on the agenda.
I can find this. But Sherry, we are going to go into closed session as well. For this one.
Okay.
Again, next time.
She was referencing A on the existing agenda. All right.
All right, everybody good?
What time is it going to be?
We're going to have
is it going to be a work session?
Am I clear that we're going to have a work session?
No,
I thought it was
For
placed on the
a-
regular.
we just paged on the
Town
regular agenda.
position.
Mr. Freeman, just so you're a little bit of aware, and I don't know if I can say this legally, but I asked if getting some assistance. I needed to know, and I was told to figure it out myself, so I'm trying to figure it out myself. I don't know. I needed help back there, and I was told to figure it out myself. So I'm trying to figure it out myself. I just need to know sort of what's going on. What are we going to do as a council? What the plan is. That's all.
Anything else to come before council this evening? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.